down because I wanted people to have a place all about. I guess I want to start this interview by giving you a little praise. I mean, you were such an accomplished artist who is part of these projects that mean so much to so many people, right? So what is it about a certain project that attracts you to want to do it? Like, what makes Daniel Gillies say, yes, I am in, let's do it?
So I'm going to say something that's to demystify this a little bit, and it's not a very romantic thing to say, unfortunately. But look, honestly, a lot of it was about survival. You know, I wrote and directed my own film in 2008, 9, 10, and that kind of it was a departure for me because I lived a reasonably successful career at that point to go and make my own film, and so stubborn that I drove myself into quite a lot of debt, and it was a film that demanded a lot of me, and I stepped away from my acting career for about 3 years. So when I returned in around 2010, I really needed to dig myself out of debt, and it's not a sexy answer. This answer, it's like essentially I took whatever roles I could in order to be able to pay back people that I owed money to, and so and the Vampire Diaries happened to be one of those roles, and I mean I've been very fortunate between that and Saving Hope and what's recently happened, but yeah, I wish I could give a more creative answer than that, but it was survival, man.
Yeah, no, I think that's super interesting, and I think it's everybody has a story and reasons why they get into what they get into, and it all leads you to where you're supposed to be. And then we're going to talk about that earlier work in a bit. But I've got to get to your movie, Coming Home in the Dark. Comes out October 1st here in the United States. Man, I watched this film, and I have to tell you, it's one of the most intense movies I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, originally I thought, okay, definitely most intense this year, but I'm going to change that to my entire life. I mean, it's a movie that once you start it, you can't stop. Like, you've got to see how it's going to end. So, without giving too much away, how would you describe the film for everybody here today?
I'm not sure I could do a better job than you just did. Man, honestly, it's sort of what I've been saying all day, man. Once you are in, you're in. It's not you're belted into the seat of the ride, and it's going to take you through whatever loops and dips it does. Look, to describe the film in terms of like log lining it a little bit, like, yeah, it's essentially this beautiful New Zealand family who I think it's this, they're not actually his children. He's the stepfather, and there's Jill and her twin sons who are 16. And their stepfather, Hoagie, they're basically on a hike/picnic exploration through the idyllic New Zealand panorama, and they find this unique spot, and they're sort of descended upon by these unsavory gentlemen. a couple of troublemakers, of which I play one, and the movie's really about that meeting. The movie's about what happens from that meeting, and it's a difficult film to talk about, isn't it? Because it's so spoiler ridden, but that's really at the point. That's the point of no return there, and then around 13 minutes deep.
Yeah, you play this psychopathic, for lack of a better word, deeply layered character who just, is a very big departure from characters you've played in the past, right? It's a very different type of character. So what was it about this character that made you want to play him? And without, again, giving too much away, tell us a little bit more about who you play.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think you nailed it in the question, actually, which is that I did it because it was a departure. I love playing Elijah Michelson, but nice Mike. I like that Mike. I feel incredibly privileged to have done that show, but it's time to redefine myself and what I'm capable of, and And that movie was just a beautiful opportunity to do that. I mean, not a lot of actors have that kind of luck or opportunity to be able to demonstrate that they're more than just the last role they played. So it's really important to me to make that departure, and it was one of the main reasons why I did it. Other than the fact that it was a beautifully written script and that I love James. To answer your question as circuitously as I possibly can, about, like, to tell you a little bit more about the character. Honestly, that was mostly of my own invention. I mean, sorry, it was a beautiful character written on the page. Don't get me wrong, but like a lot of what you see in terms of like his backstory, and I love James made a real decision to sort of distance himself from that part. He's not one of those directors who'll say, when I see guys like Tarantino saying, this is your backstory. You went to this school and you went to, like that to me it's annoying. I don't want to be told what to think and feel. I actually think backstories are very personal. I just imitate Quentin Tarantino. I think I just did. That backstory is a very personal part of your own creation, and it's I mean, the parameters of being an actor anyway are such that you're at the mercy of the story and you're at the mercy of what transpires in the scenes. In my opinion, it ought to be your own domain, making and creating the story of who they are. And yeah, I was frightened that I was going to caricature it, that it would be too. I wanted him to seem like a real man, like a person you could encounter, because there was a danger of him becoming the Joker, Yeah. And I don't want that. Not that I don't love some of those Joker performances, but I'm just saying I just didn't want him to be like something.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, what you did with this character is unbelievable, and part of the joy of this film is, it's waiting for that reveal of the mystery throughout the course of the film, and you want to know what that mystery is going to end up being.
Yeah.
And then that's why you have to hang on to it. So for you making the movie and being, part of it, was that something in real time performing out, like, also captivating to you as an artist, like waiting for that mystery to pay off?
Well, we don't shoot it chronologically, so we did in certain parts. So, but I've never really been interested in payoff in movies, both as an artist and I mean this with television too. Neither as an artist nor a viewer. Like, I'm more interested in something that provokes a question in me. I feel like that is the most important part of filmmaking, is that you walk away with that mystery in you, and say you watched it with a couple of your friends and you discuss it with your friends. Like, did you watch it with any of your friends or anybody you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Was there? Because I'm so curious about what those discussions look and sound like. I mean, I'm seeing it for the first time on a screen tonight. I've never seen it on a movie screen.
Well, there's a lot of different themes in this movie, and
yes,
without giving anything major away, I can safely say one of the themes that came up in discussion was this idea of, if you witness something horrible happen, and does that automatically make you part of the horrific event, the crime? Do you have a responsibility to do something? Do you not have a responsibility? So I think that was a very interesting conversation topic that has come from watching this movie.
Well, that was James's goal, so it's a beautiful thing to hear you say that, and yeah, like, are you complicit? And in a weird way, like where we live now and the time we're in right now, we sort of all are complicit in some kind of treachery, right? Like, I was listening to a podcast last night between Sam Harris, and he had a guest on who runs this effective altruism company. I won't take us too far away from what we're talking about, but Sam Harris described Western civilization as we know it, like, and developed countries, as he described us as the fancy lifeboat. Like, in a weird way, they were talking about automating their charity. So a lot of wealthier guys, men and women, will automate like 5 to 10% of their money. So they don't even have to think about it. They just 5 to 10% of their wealth is always going out to you know, those in need. And it was a fascinating interview, but like this idea of that right now, even just by being a person, like, you know, like having been to some certain countries in the world, like I've been to, you know, I spent a fair amount of time in Uganda with the South Sudanese refugees that were coming in, you know, through the Democratic Republic of Congo, you know, like there's, like, yeah, like my t-shirt feels like a luxury. Like, you know, the fact that I can eat a couple of meals a day feels like a luxury, you know, and it's an interesting question that the movie evokes is like, you know, if, are we bystanders? Are we complicit in the crimes that befall those that are less fortunate? You know?
Right, right. It's fascinating. I think this movie tackles a lot of interesting, controversial viewpoints depending on who you're talking to, and I think that's what's another great thing about this is a lot of fans of yours can watch something that you're doing now, who will watch you in the originals, watch you in the Vampire Diaries, and can see you in this light and take on a whole new appreciation for the art you're putting out there in the world and the conversation that can come from it, you know?
Yeah, it's really interesting. When I was getting ready for the role, I posted something on Instagram where I, you know, I was just basically Mandarin, and the amount of hate that I got for that, like, just like open. And what's crazy to me too is like something like 89 or 90% of my fan following are women. You know, that's just the data that I have. That's the statistic, right? And it's got to be relatively accurate, even if some of those are bought. And the cruelty that I actually ended up removing the post because people were like just on a very superficial level, they're like, he looks terrible. What the fuck's happened to him? God, he looks so old. He looks like God. You know, so I was like amazed. I was like, you know, I was just sharing it like another thing. And I look now, I don't care because I want to promote the shit out of the film. But at that time, I couldn't say much about what was happening. You know. But it's really interesting. Like people want you. You know, we often blame studios and networks for pulling the levers that keep us sort of typecast, but actually fans really want you to be the thing that you were before, you know, in a lot of ways. And I think, you know, they have to understand that this is a career, this is a life, and it does move on to the next place. And so for me, Mandrake was just a complete demolition of Elijah Michelson, and I think it does so rather successfully.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's what's cool. I mean, you want that in the artist that you like, and I think a lot of the followers watching today, the viewers, are going to see that character and be really impressed. And you know, to know that you have an appreciation for playing Elijah, of course, and
Oh, yeah.
those were years that were, you know, very meaningful to you, but that you also can evolve as a person and as an artist is huge. And for example, somebody like me, I never watched those series until COVID, because I had time and I'm like, I need some shows, let me check it out. And we watched it and we loved it, but we loved the performances. I'm a 35-year-old dude in New York City, so I'm in a different mindset than, you know, when I was a younger fan of shows, right? So now my mindset's like, oh, what's this guy doing next? I want to see him flex a different tool, you know?
Lovely to hear, man. It's so encouraging.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's cool. And what I like about you is you strike me as somebody who puts 10,000% of himself into the jobs that you do. And you know, looking back at your time, I mean, I saw it in this film, of course, and I saw it when you were doing those shows. So when you look back at your time in the Vampire Diaries universe, what are you most proud of?
And there's a lot in what you just said. You know, when you said about the 10,000% thing, like it's such like that's reciprocated from the work, though. You know, like it's when you put yourself in, the harder you work, the more pleasurable it is, just for whatever reason. And I think I made a promise to myself a long time ago too. I always said, look, even if I'm in bullshit, I want to be good in bullshit. You know, whatever. By the way, I'm not calling the originals Vampire Diaries, but I love that show. I'm saying, you know, as an actor, you're going to do stuff that isn't as highly praised as Coming Home in the Dark, you know, and isn't as uniquely. But you always want to be sort of have that work ethic, and I'm not asking you a question but I want to kind of get to that because you triggered a few things while you were speaking.
Please.
You know, I was listening to this, I want to say it was like a Kazakhstani, like weightlifter. No, he wasn't. He was, oh, goddamn, where's he from? He was Russian anyway, weightlifter, but he had this like personal mantra that he used to say to himself, which he said, what did he say? Hard work, easy life. Sorry, yeah. I'm going to get this correct. Yeah, hard work, easy life. Easy work, hard life, I think is what he said. It was just, he just reduced it down to a very stoic kind of minimalist mantra, as I say. And I kind of like, I feel the same way. I feel like if you work really hard, then you get to enjoy it. Like people have been repeatedly asking me today, like, what was it like to shed that character when you left? Was it really, did you take it home with you? Was it difficult to be in that frame of mind and then to come home like it's something that you're carrying with you? It's not the way it works for me. I work as hard as I can up until we shoot, and then you're sort of there's just the release. You know, you're releasing this thing, and it feels so good. You're finally getting to share it. It feels even in the darkest, most sinister, disturbing fucking scenes. It's incredibly good. Now, there was a question you asked at the end there, and I happen to have forgotten that. I'm sorry, and I feel like I've gone well from there.
No, I love it. I think that's when the most interesting conversation happens. I was asking what you're most proud of from playing that role.
From playing Mandrake, you mean?
From playing Elijah, and then from playing this role.
Oh, my proudest thing about the my proudest thing about Elijah is kind of in lockstep with what I just said, which is that I'm proud that I always tried to make every scene I ever did and show the best version of itself that it could, the best scene that it could be. I'm proudest of that. In terms of Mandrake, I'm proud. What am I most proud of? I'm just proud that what am I proud of in this film? I mean, there's so many things. Give me a second. Let me just think about that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a big question, I know.
Yeah. I'm proudest that I was able to give this performance to a New Zealand film. That's really special to me. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, I'm sure that's a very proud moment for you. And I think what's cool is, you know, in your body of work, you're showing that you can play such different people. And what you play are characters, like, just, you know, it's not you, and these are not you in these roles. Like, you know, sometimes people get very excited and want the actors to be their characters, and they're characters, and you play such different roles. So for you, I imagine, like you said earlier, that was a big appeal of doing this movie, right?
Yeah.
So if you had to say the biggest differences, like help your fans understand today who are watching and love you on those shows, like what are the differences between those two roles?
Well, primarily just it actually has nothing whatsoever really to do with those two characters. It's just that those two worlds are so different. You know, the textures of those two worlds are different. The second film, like what happens in Coming Home in the Dark is the kind of thing that could happen to you. And it really feels like it. And I feel like it's why it's most effective as a terrifying movie, you know. There's nothing in the originals that feels like it could ever really happen to you. There's that willing suspension of disbelief. You're sort of protected by the world. There's a sort of a safety there. It doesn't matter how graphic or violent the Vampire Diaries gets. It's never going to be as frightening as something that looks like an actual event. Now, that's not to say that the movie's documentary style. It's just it's set in what looks like our world, you know. And these people are ostensibly, you know, just another family going up for another stroll in the wilderness and enjoying their lives. So really it's the textures of those worlds that makes the biggest differences. Also too, you know, I think they both have problems. I both think that they're both they almost have more similarities in some ways. Like they're both ill in their minds. One you know, one has a positively pathological commitment to a brother who is not worthy of that, and the other one, and Mandrake is compassion is obsolete in him. There is no compassion. Yeah, that's probably the biggest difference. Is that one of them actually had a sense of empathy and compassion and decency, and the other one was never born with those qualities.
Yeah, that's right on, and that's why I'm also so excited for people to see this movie, because it really is such a departure from other things you've done. And I think you just nailed it with that. Do you have you been? I wouldn't call this a horror movie necessarily, maybe more of a psychological thriller, but horror elements. But have you always been interested in that world, like spooky, dark? You know, you did that world with the shows. You're doing this. Is that something that really appeals to you?
Yeah. Look, man, I'd do a romantic comedy if I thought it was. I just want to do good work. You know, if it's something I haven't seen, and it's unique within its genre, you know, if it's unique, I mean, it doesn't need to be unique within its genre. If it's just if the film is original, no pun intended, and it's saying something, and it's really saying something, then I'm all in. I want to try. You know, I'm not locked into just this genre, but to answer your question more directly, like, yeah, I've always been really intrigued by the dark world, and I do feel like there is something, you know, I mean, look at Krasinski's The Quiet Place, man. That's masterful. Even though I saw the sequel, I thought it was brilliant too. I think he's an amazing director. I mean, he happens to have married very, like, his lead actress is super. But by the way, so is everybody in those movies. But my point is, that's not, that movie isn't about an alien invasion. That movie is about family, you know. And John's talking about family and the things that the world kind of is invasive, and right now we do feel besieged in the world by, you know, these, as I said before, borderline apocalyptic conditions. You know, we're all worried about the environment. God, for as long as Trump was in power, we were worried for many more things. There's a threat of nuclear strike. There's any number of things that we're all so concerned about, and I just felt like that movie was so interesting and vital. So I'm looking for any, like, the fact that you can use horror for that kind of philosophical discussion.
Yeah,
It excites me, you know.
I gotta wrap you up.
You gotta wrap me up. Oh, God damn it, just go wrap me up. Get out of here. Hey, Tommy, I hope we speak again, man. Lovely to chat with you. Sorry, I can waffle the fuck on, can't I? I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries, my man. It's been awesome to chat with you. Thank you for joining. I hope everybody goes see this film October 1st. October 1st, right?
Yes, thank you.
All right, be well, and thank you for joining.
Thank you so much, Tommy. Lovely to have you, man, and I hope we get in touch soon.
I hope so too. Be well. Bye-bye.
Thank you.